Oh man, it's time for movies! Wow! I love movies! I watched about, what am I up to now? Pretty close to 240, 250 movies this year. Every movie that I thought was pretty cool, I guess, I forced my friends and my parents to watch it, so I wind up watching a bunch of stuff 3 times over. I think this is a good structure, a good way of going about it, frankly. Rewatching the good shit so many times makes it a lot easier for me to vibe check my how strongly my opinions hold solid for them. Just like with games, I'm not gonna be ranking things in order. I'm doing the tier list format, so let's get into it. Oh, by the way, I consciously refused to watch Hamnet because I oppose dumbass historical fiction slop with every fiber of my being. So, stuff like Hamnet is to Shakespeare what the Angel Studios Animal Farm trailer is to George Orwell. I'm aware that it's probably well made with quality elements, but not doing it. Nope, I refuse. And the elephant in the room? Yes. I've decided to make this video before it's possible for me to watch everything that's relevant. I have not been allowed to see No Other Choice, The Secret Agent, The Voice of Hindrajab, The Testament of Anne Lee, Sirat, Pillion, The Sound of Falling, The President's Cake, Arco, and My Father's Shadow. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not gonna wait for, I don't even know how long, an unknown number of weeks or months for movies to get put on streaming that I can access just to make my year-end review. It's so cool that the industry is designed in this way, where all of these movies are going to be relevant to the awards series, the awards shows and stuff, and awards season, but I can't access them without waiting for like half a year. Fuck you. Any movie that wasn't accessible to me in 2025, I am officially considering to be 2026. I'll put them in my next fucking video next year. I'm not mad. Why would I be mad? I'm not upset at any of this. And, yes, one thing to add, in terms of movies I didn't talk about last year that I have seen since then, Exuma. Easy A tier, no question. Fucking top tier movie. Based. Okay, let's get into it. F tier, things that I think were kind of bad. Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning. War of the Worlds, a clarion call for our generation, I know, but... Sisu, Road to Revenge. I don't even think it's that bad, but, I really got played on this one. I really, the review numbers and the scores were way too high for this shit. I forgot to put this on my list for most of the year. I fucking forgot that months and months ago I saw Thunderbolts in theaters. I fucking forgot that I did that. Marvel heads are coping insanely hard with this. This movie is bad. This movie is not good. Also, I hated Nuremberg for vibes-based personal reasons. Exists. The Exists tier. Movies that I watch and that certainly exist, and that you cannot say they don't exist. The Last Showgirl, The Accountant 2, Companion, A House of Dynamite. I gotta say, it's fucking annoying how good The Hurt Locker is, despite its, liberties taken, because it led to a decade of me wanting her to, make a fucking good movie again, and it just is not going to happen. Truth and Treason, John Candy, I Like Me, Sharing Aloha. I should not have fucking watched this, by the way. I don't even know why. It's nothing. It's like weird Mormon propaganda. Wicked for Good. Did Last Breath come out last year? I accidentally saw it at a client's house. It happened to be on, and I couldn't avert my eyes. The Perfect Neighbor. Presence. Good Boy. I thought this movie was a joke when it came out. I assumed, the doggo horror movie was like some cheap piece of shit joke thing. But then I saw people were actually putting it on their lists and being like, yeah, it's good. So that I went and saw it, and it was alright. The Phoenician Scheme. Caught by the Tides. The Conjuring Last Rites. Final Destination Bloodlines. It Was Just an Accident. as a film next to other films, I understand, I know I'll get shit for this, I will talk about this later, I just like, you know, it was a fine film, okay, I understand, I have great respect for, it was just an accident. Sorry, Baby, no hate, I just had no special feelings about it. Ghost Trail, Caught Stealing, almost put this in C tier, because it's good, it's fun, but it's, you know, it's, whatever, I cut it out. Train Dreams, 2,000 Meters to Andreevka, After the Hunt, Mickey 17, huge disappointment, right? The Mastermind, F1, Die My Love, Sentimental Value. I don't get, I paid $20 to stream this because the evil deep state establishment insisted that it was great, and it's so fucking boring. Hedda, Elio, Song Sung Blue, Splitsville, The Smashing Machine, The Life of Chuck, Blue Moon, Peter Hujar's Day, Cover Up, The Shrouds, Suleiman's Story, Roof Man, Eternity, A Nice Indian Boy. I almost put this in C tier because, like, it's a really saccharine formula. It's, like, super fucking, you know, cliched to shit. But the third act is actually pretty great. And, finally, If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You, which I also was, like, iffy about putting in C tier or exists tier. Okay, moving on up. C tier, movies that are good enough that I'm glad I watched them and I would recommend them to people under the right circumstances, and I would watch them again if I had a time machine. The White House Effect and The Alabama Solution. Both of these are more on the informational side of documentaries. I do think The White House Effect is well structured and well edited. The Black Bag. I'm seeing reviewers put Black Bag in top 3. Like, fuck Sinners, fuck Neja. No, the cinematic experience. The thing that made a lasting impression on my life this year, I watched The Black Bag. Okay, sir. Black Bag is just like a basic bitch spy drama kind of whodunit that happens to have good dialogue, and it's also kind of like slutty and cunty, which is great and I respect, but it's like, it's not that fucking good, like, come on. The Naked Gun. Pretty funny, not super fun. I only watched this once, and I remember it being kind of hit or miss. I don't know. More funny than not funny, but it's just, I don't know. The Long Walk. One of the weaker Stephen King novels, in my opinion, but it happens to be a premise that lets film adaptations coast on dialogue and actor performances, and those were all great. Begonia. I talked about this in my politics movies video. It's alright. It's not that compelling. It's not that tense. It's got some sauce. I respect the sauce, but, I don't know. Pretty whatever. Frankenstein. I mostly put it here because this movie has tons of polish and effort. It's got, like, baller aesthetic, but narratively I'm quite critical of it. The book supremacists are right, okay? Like, and this movie's saccharine fucking ending really rubs me the wrong way, and the entire second half sours me on the whole thing, just like a downward spiral. Zootopia 2, movie is fun, much better than Zootopia 1. And mostly, I want to rail the sexy bunny with childbearing hips and the fuckable gazelle with legs for days. That's my cinematic analysis. The movie could have been better, pretty obviously, if it leveraged the snake character in a more compelling and powerful kind of way. It's kind of a weird inclusion. Eddington. I also talked about this in my politics and movies video, obviously. Like, honestly, you can watch Begonia as just a weird thriller, but Eddington, there's no way to watch it without, you know, the lens of how it depicts the modern American political world. Or, you know, modern 2020. I honestly don't have anything to say about it other than how it approached politics. Like, I understand why some people call it a Western. I don't really feel like it is. It is a political satire, fundamentally. Its universe makes no internal sense without interpreting a lot of it through metaphor and absurdism. If you watched this movie and took its plot in a serious and straightforward way, you're just, like, insane. Jay Kelly, interesting movie. I like the idea that George Clooney hates his life and regrets being born and thinks that all of his movies are bullshit. One thing that really struck me this year in collecting huge lists of what people claim to be like the greatest films of all time, I watched a ton of classics this year. I collected hundreds of films to watch, and despite him being like one of the most famous movie guys ever or whatever, I think the only film that popped up on any of the lists of best 100 films of all time was Pretty Woman, on rare occasions. That's fucking brutal, man. You're like the most famous movie guy, and like you're only known for making like pretty okay movies. Wow. Rental Family. This shit treads a kind of a thin line for me, because like it leans a little into the saccharine. When I watched the trailers, I thought it was going to be a lot more saccharine. And I saw this a couple times, and yeah, it's pretty solid. I was impressed. It's good. Superman. I enjoyed this a lot when it came out. It didn't have any staying power in my consciousness, and I can't really explain why. I don't know why. I think it's really good. But, you know, I don't know. I'm just like, I'm thinking about it now, and it's... okay. It happened. Lurker. I didn't already talk about this, did I? Good movie, good performances, interesting third act. It has songs. I like movies that, like, make songs, so, like, I've been listening to the songs. I don't know, good movie. B tier. Good movies. Like, shit. Bro, what if you watched a good movie, my guy? It was easier to decide how to separate these tiers for my video game list. Movies, in my opinion, tend to be more consistent, more solid than video games are. They have fewer flaws in the short, tightly controlled experience, so they're a little harder to separate. Also, like, one game can be like a tiny indie thing, and then another game can be like this massive 40-hour thing, and so it's like, you know, they're quite easy to separate in your mind of which one is more significant, whereas movies are all like, you know, feature film length. K-pop Demon Hunters. I actually think as a film by itself it might be C-tier material. The plot is really cliche and it's not a transformative experience, but the sheer bangerness and cuntiness of the musical numbers elevates it to the point where, like, I'm listening to the tracks in my free time, and, like, imagining it through that tone makes you feel like the movie is the coolest fucking thing ever. To be clear, I am fine with this. I am fine with this, like, retroactive glorification. I'm very happy they're getting a sequel. This shit is fucking rules. Urchin. This movie slaps, okay? It has a lot more bite and style compared to similar kinds of movies about, you know, human failure. This is on the threshold of A tier for me. I gotta be honest, I think my brain automatically interprets Europeans as, like, less than human, less than other characters in movies. So when I see Europeans, like, chatting or flirting or whatever, I'm like, wow, look, they're, like, trying to be like humans. That's crazy. I can almost imagine feeling emotion towards you. And I think my brain is just extremely racist to their accent. Other than that, monumental cinematic excellence on display, amazing work, director, lead actor, etc. A Normal Family. I really, really, really want to rewatch this, and I have not had the chance to. This film is excellently directed, and my only issue with it is I find the ending really blunt and reductive. And I really want to rewatch it so I can reaffirm, see if that feeling continues. This could be A tier if I were to rewatch it and it assuaged my concerns about, you know, the ending and its relationship to the rest of it. Wake Up Dead Man, a Knives Out mystery. Calling the series Knives Out is still kind of funny to me because the name implies... It makes sense for the first movie. It's, you know, they're all in-laws and they hate each other. It's about people being at each other's throats. And that dynamic isn't really present in Glass Onion. They're all kind of friends. It might be an apt title for Wake Up Dead Man. This movie is way more of a normal murder mystery whodunit than the first two. And as a murder mystery is where I think it might be the weakest. There's the most legitimate criticisms against it. And the supporting cast is kind of whatever. I think a weird, like, mystery where strange things happen in it should feel a little more confusing than this does, but it often doesn't feel like we're investigating or learning or theorizing throughout it. The fact that it's just a normal whodunit where we know who the victim is and who the suspects are, and one of them is the killer, I think it shows flaws in the cleverness of the actual murder mystery gimmicks. Because it was fucking insanely obvious to me, in my opinion, who killed it and how they did it, within seconds of him dying. Weapons. You all saw this, don't tell me you didn't. I actually personally think that I liked Barbarian better than Weapons, but Weapons is really fun. They both have a couple plot issues, in my opinion. But I do think Barbarian is a little more to the point. There were scenes I could have trimmed down in Weapons. Nouvelle Vague. I'm ideologically opposed to putting a biopic in A tier, but this movie is really good, and I appreciate the way it's done. It's entirely possible that I'd be more bothered by the writing and directing if I were more knowledgeable on the subjects at hand. Most of my academia in film was focused on American cinema, obviously. I mean, like, I've watched Bicycle Thieves and shit, but, like, generally, I'm not a big fan of French cinema. I do enjoy weird, pretentious assholes who are easy to bully, though, so this movie's fun. Twinless. I haven't seen anybody fucking talking about Twinless. And in some ways it's a little saccharine, but it's directed with like a bluntness and a brutishness that makes it feel less saccharine, that makes it feel way more fucked up than you would think a saccharine movie would be. The biggest problem with the movie is that it tries to be funny, and its sense of humor is not fucking funny at all. As a drama and as a gay media, it's really good, and I can't really talk about it that much because one of its major hooks is a big spoiler. Bring Her Back. I kind of love this movie, weirdly. Great protagonist, although I think Piper could have felt like more of an intentional character. The villain is so good. Instead of a savvy, duplicitous mastermind, we get like a bumbling Aussie housewife bullshitting her way through foreign witchcraft. And I love that, okay? That's such a good angle, alright? I think it's interesting that the film feels like a shock and awe horror movie that's not trying to be a big theme thing, but it's also not emotionally satisfying like horror movies of that type tend to be either. The film gets to feel like a genre where you think you know what to expect, and then they rob you of some of those expectations. Left-Handed Girl. How do I start this? Good movie is good, great movie is great. It has that underlying sense of meaning, right? Asking us to think about complex and unspoken things. I don't have a ton to say. I mean, I think the film speaks for itself. Complex, expansive social study, very brilliant. Yeah. I was hovering between B tier and A tier for this. Next, Avatar 3, Avatar Fire and Ash. I have to agree with the internet on this one. Avatar 3 is fun. Like, what are most movies even giving us these days that can really compete with a tall-ass, hot-ass blue bitch, okay? I think a movie like this could easily be stronger by just having, I don't know, a more likable protagonist who's easier to feel emotion towards. I was also really distracted by the teenage girl with the 70-year-old white woman voice. Like, it could have been pretty funny, but I don't know, it was just off-putting. It was weird. Overall, it's pretty entertaining, you know? The money makes it pretty, Varang and Neytiri make it sexy, and its mainstreamness and the contrarian internet film bro culture makes it memeable, and it finds joy in its mundanity and superfluous details, and James Cameron is a funny character for pop culture. It's a fun movie. It's not unlike Dispatch, in my opinion. I think this has one of the largest, like, internet virality and popularities because it's really sexy, in a way that people actually enjoy. There's kind of what I would describe as a three-body problem of competing influences between sexiness, comedy, and coolness. And all of it gets heightened when it stays in this constant, like, push-pull between these three forces, or three or more. Constant duality, right? Like, everything is both a joke, but also a sincere dramatic beat. The more heavily it's a dramatic beat, the funnier it is to think of it as a joke, and vice versa. To some extent, internet culture just does this with anything that's sincere and well-known. Breaking Bad, for instance, is one of the most comedically memed series there is. Still, I feel like this is a type of entertainment almost like its own genre. Movies that, if the story isn't that good, well, you can laugh at it as a comedy. Or if the jokes aren't that good as a comedy, you can just, like, you know, take the story seriously. And if nothing else, you can look at the aesthetics. And so I think calling it a three-body problem is accurate. The entertainment it derives is in constant emotional flux, almost in an unpredictable and indescribable way. From recent years, I would say that RRR is clearly the best type of this film. Sexy, funny, and cool, in constant conflict with itself, because its silliness belies the great seriousness with which it often approaches its narrative, but it creates this three-body problem feedback loop, which heightens each of these emotions that are involved in watching it. In that way, I think Fire and Ash having a weaker plot, as many people have said it does, than the prior movies, allows it to get a greater comedic slant, and the sexiness of Varang and Neytiri, Varang especially as the new character, serves as another push-pull, a yank of your focus, your feelings of enjoyment and the nature of that enjoyment, like a new direction to keep your feelings from stagnating at any point in time. So, yeah, I think it makes sense. Little Amelie, or the character of Rain. Wonderful, short animated adaptation. It is a sugary treat with a strong, interesting protagonist. This was the last thing I watched, and it was such a pleasant send-off for the year. A weightless, truly effortless watch. If the highest quality scenes of animation felt like consistent quality across every frame of the movie, I would easily put it in the A tier, but there are obvious moments where the animators are like taking it easy for this part. Yephis. I talked about this quite glowingly in my politics video, but it's not in A tier because it is relatively uneventful. It's not the most compelling watch, moment to moment, despite its emotional depth. I do think it's flying under the radar, though. It is really special. Okay, A tier. Sinners, obviously, like, what the fuck, like, you know, whatever. When I was in the theater, that sequence that everyone talks about, that was like a moment in my mind where I was thinking, like, it really made me think, there's only so many films with these little bits, little parts that truly capture actual movie magic. Honestly, pure contrarianism fought me with Sinners this whole year. As a film experience, it's all good. It's all good things. Every aspect. But ironically, while everyone is rightly talking about how the film industry is trying to reject this fucking black vampire movie from high repute, my biggest blocker with Sinners is that it feels too Hollywood to me. And I could never explain my hesitation to say that it was the best movie of the year, other than just to state that it feels too Hollywood. 28 years later, this placement is mostly and honestly coasting off of my respect for the director. I didn't really get that much movie magic from watching this, but I have more confidence and faith in this like clever, thinly veiled political commentary than I do for most other movies. I guess I got nostalgic for a moment about this era of telling a story almost entirely through symbology in a film. Very few directors still make movies that are like this, you know, with these intentions and methods. Marty Supreme. I think maybe or maybe not as good as Uncut Gems, I don't know. I thought this movie was a biopic, but it does that kind of thing where it bases a lot of its story and the concept off of a real person, but it changes Marty's name, and in doing so admits that it is taking its own creative license and making shit up, which I'm fine with, okay? I think that's a totally fine way of doing things. And it makes a big difference for me. I think there's a meaningful difference between this and Uncut Gems. I think that, like, while Marty is a flawed character, most of the difficulty in his life and his immediate struggles come from other people being shitty to him, rather than a natural byproduct of his own degeneracy. Obviously, the ending makes a really big difference in how the whole movie comes across, and I think the structure still uses the climax in a similar way, right? The climax of both movies leverages the prior 2 hours of struggle into this, like, retching gut feeling. I'd say I like the overall climax in Marty Supreme more, but I like the actual ending of Uncut Gems a lot more. For everything leading up to that point, the conflict and the hustle and most actions running into brick walls, It's entertaining enough, but I don't think it's, like, necessarily masterfully crafted journey. It's pretty fun, you know? I think One Battle After Another is more fun. I guess I just feel that the intensity of the film is a little overstated by people. It's pretty energetic, but I wouldn't consider it the most thrilling thing of all time. It's just a well-made movie, in my opinion. Warfare. This is a great movie anyways, but I have a well-documented personal weakness and affection for certain film gimmicks, such as stories that play out in real time. This quality lends it to the interesting scene direction and pacing, where some parts of it are really slow and nothing is going on, and the film has to find interesting ways of making me watch the play-by-play of the encounter. I didn't have expectations for, like, another texturally accurate war movie, but the mixture between the stresses of the action and anticipation of danger versus the mundanity of sitting around where nothing is really happening, that's one of those things that I really loved about The Hurt Locker as well, and I think it's done excellently here. I dislike when movies like this have these, like, stupid generic trailers, by the way, though, about that just kind of lie about the tone and what it's like. It's not like a big drama. It doesn't have like big scary music. It's mostly very mundane with little fanfare, which is what makes it good. But like the trailer is bullshit. A trailer should be edited to have the general tone of the thing that it's a trailer for, in my opinion. Ne Zha 2. This shit is fucking awesome. Okay, it's era of Gremlin. The dub sucks though. I wouldn't watch that shit. The obvious deep state where establishment Hollywood refuses to acknowledge that China exists is really funny. Anyways, yeah, this shit kicks ass. Universal Language. Very funny, that, to me, that, like, basically a Wes Anderson ripoff is way better than the actual Wes Anderson movie this year. I feel like I don't know enough about Canadian or Iranian culture to really appreciate everything this movie is doing, but the spirit of it is undeniable. I really have no criticisms of it, but if I had to say what keeps it from being like, I don't know, S tier, maybe the cheap production value and the flatness of the satire gives it less energy and less life than what I would think a top tier film would have, but still, baller art, so good. One Battle After Another, understood to be my least favorite political analysis movie of the year, but for objective filmmaking, the experience of everything past the first 25 minutes is excellent. Definitely movie magic with the road scene, right? And as a really political person, I have like this mini aneurysm every other minute, that it does something fucking weird. But as a movie, it is a great experience, okay? I still think it has flaws as a movie. I think some side characters are just not that good, not interesting or charismatic or well presented. And there's some editing mistakes, like I mentioned, in my prior video. But, yeah, you know, the movie compels an experience, and it's got a great soundtrack and everything else, and yeah. And then, like usual, nothing in S tier this year. Nothing that shakes up my life. Nothing that is like my top films of all time. Ultimately, for Best Picture, I'd have to go with Sinners. Gotta pick Sinners. Even though I did put it in B tier, I do think the closest runner-up to Sinners would be A Normal Family, which could have the potential to be at that level, at that Sinners level in my mind, if I were to resolve or change some of my mixed feelings about it by rewatching it. All the main stuff out of the way, I'd like to take the opportunity to talk about some of the stupid award categories. Best Actor. I'd be thinking, with no limit on how many nominees to pick, I'd be thinking Leonardo DiCaprio, One Battle After Another, Theodore Pellerin, Lurker, James Sweeney, Twinless, Miles Catton, Sinners, Frank Delane, Urchin, Joaquin Phoenix, Eddington, Jang Dong-gun, Normal Family, Cooper Hoffman, The Long Walk, and I think Timothée Chalamet, Marty Supreme, and Guillaume Marbeck, Nouvelle Vague are strong, though not as strong. I would give it to Leonardo DiCaprio quite confidently. The sheer manifestation of his character was incomparable to any other performance. The entire full-body embodiment of the role. But this was a competitive year, and most of these leads go very hard. Best Actress. Again, I refuse to watch Hamnet. I've heard people say that it's competitive in this category. I'm thinking Ava Victor, Sorry Baby, Julia Roberts, After the Hunt, Rose Byrne, If I Had Legs I'd Kick You, and Ma Xuan, Left-Handed Girl. I'm not big on this category this year, I gotta be honest. There's a real lack of subtlety in a lot of the leading roles this year. And I think actresses just have it harder than actors, especially for physical comedy, and, like, male actors can portray emotional repressions and vulnerabilities in a way that comes across as more impactful than when a woman does the exact same fucking thing. I also think, like, K-pop Demon Hunters has some of the most iconic female characters of the year, but a lot of their personality comes from the animation, which is, like, separate from the acting, and it's hard to separate those sources and decide how many laurels to give one or the other. In my opinion, Ma Xuan in Left-Handed Girl would be my pick, Best Actress. Supporting Actor. I'd like to cast a wide net, since there are so many good little performances in so many movies. Sinners, A Normal Family, One Battle After Another, Warfare, The Long Walk, Begonia, Twinless, Rental Family, Nouvelle Vague, Jay Kelly, After the Hunt, Lurker, and Elordi in Frankenstein has gotten a lot of heat behind him for this award, but I'll be honest, when I watched Frankenstein, I wasn't really thinking that hard about his performance, so I kind of have no opinion on it. I always have, like, a fucked up time deciding one supporting performance in a year. It's very tough. Let me narrow down the list. Top tier supporting actors. On the next level, I'm thinking Sinners, A Normal Family, One Battle After Another, The Long Walk, Twinless, and Lurker. I feel bad cutting anything off, but I do think I'd have to pick Sean Penn for One Battle After Another. Supporting actress. I'm gonna avoid picking one actress from each movie, so that you can imagine that I'm referring to any one of them. Sinners, 28 Years Later, Weapons, A Normal Family, Nouvelle Vague, Hedda, Bring Her Back, Roofman, Left-Handed Girl. I personally find it harder to judge certain performances for what are probably quite stupid reasons. Like, the mom in 28 Years Later doesn't pop into my head as a standout performance because she doesn't pop into my head as, like, a big actress. Like, she's not a super hot star actress. And also they're Irish, which means, haha, listen to their funny Irish sounds, haha. And then for some reason, like, Nouvelle Vague, I've been told that her performance is nigh indistinguishable from the real person, but I have trouble measuring that in my mind, or deciding if I think that's admirable. I also think that it's hard to judge a performance like Aunt Gladys in Weapons, which is measured on how cunty and iconic it is, rather than how tight and well-controlled the acting performance is. I think if I could smush all of the supporting actresses into a single person in a film, I would give it to A Normal Family. But to give it to a single actress, I am split between Sinners, Bring Her Back, and Weapons. But if I think, I don't know. I think I'll give it to Sally Hawkins for Bring Her Back. I'll pick that, yes. Box Office Achievement. I bring this category up only because of the obvious importance of Ne Zha 2 and It Was Just an Accident, which should be the only films in consideration for this title, I think. The directors of both films have, like, these interesting, incredible stories. This, like, dirt poor dude in China who goes on to make a film so monumental it pierces the heavens and smashes through the barrier between Chinese cinema and the rest of the world, and out of nowhere becomes one of the biggest films in all history, in all film history. Or It Was Just an Accident, made and distributed against all odds by a radical activist in protest of the Iranian regime, which had previously jailed and tortured him, who literally went to prison for making this fucking movie this year. It would feel weird to give it to anything other than that, other than It Was Just an Accident. Best Score. I get the sense that film score is made arbitrarily separate from musical movie track lists, but for this year, I think it's inarguable for me to pick anything but Sinners, One Battle After Another, or K-pop Demon Hunters. In any normal year, I would be loath to give it to anything but One Battle After Another's awesome score, but that's just not workable. Like, I would have to pick Sinners or K-pop, both of which I listen to on the daily almost now. I have strong social and aesthetic reasons to pick both. And on one hand, K-pop is cringe and Sinners isn't, but on the other hand, we do support women's rights and their wrongs, so that's tough. Overall, I would have to go Sinners. Best Screenplay. There's a lot of good ones this year, but I'm thinking like Nouvelle Vague, One Battle After Another, A Normal Family, Warfare, Marty Supreme, Ephus, and Urchin. In terms of the sheer interplay between like the director and the script and everything else, I would give it to One Battle After Another or Urchin. Fuck, I don't know, man. Yeah, I'll say One Battle After Another. Most sauce. I'm doing this in place of cinematography because I'm saying it's a more all-encompassing vibe thing about Zenadea's like beautiful shot composition. Sauce is universal, so there's a lot of options to think of. I'm thinking Sinners, K-pop Demon Hunters, Ninja 2, The Black Bag, Weapons, Warfare, A Normal Family, One Battle After Another, Frankenstein, Universal Language, Nouvelle Vague, Final Destination Bloodlines, why not? Good Boy, Urchin, The Phoenician Scheme, Avatar Fire and Ash, Ephus, and The Life of Chuck. And as a little mention, 2,000 Meters to Andreevka does have some amazing shots in it. I'll take this in stages and narrow it down a bit. I'll narrow it down to just Sinners, K-pop Demon Hunters, Ninja 2, A Normal Family, One Battle After Another, Avatar Fire and Ash. So, what has the sauce? Sinners and One Battle After Another have very iconic sauce, but K-pop Demon Hunters is basically all sauce. There's nothing but sauce. It is just like drinking sauce straight from the sauce jar. In the end, though, I'll give it to Sinners. Most feels. Not any specific feels, just feels in general. Euphoria, misty eyes, laughter, disgust, or a bottomless hole where your heart is supposed to be. Any feels. Keep in mind that my heart is a hole, it is black and cold, and this is based off of my feels, and not yours. Yours mean nothing to me. I'm not including documentaries like The Alabama Solution for obvious reasons, because I would just, to express my feelings on it would just be violating YouTube terms of services for calling for the mass executions of certain people. I would say my nominees are Urchin, The Naked Gun, Eddington, Twinless, Rental Family, Bring Her Back, Modi Supreme, and Ephus. It's a bit of a tough call for me. I'm really feeling, in my opinion, I'm really feeling to either give it to the comedy, Naked Gun, or to Ephus for the most existential dread and terror. But I don't want to be one of those guys, one of those biases, where I never give the dumb comedies the credit they deserve for being dumb comedies, so I'm going to say The Naked Gun. Most woke. I think the video games list was a lot easier, a lot cleaner. With a lot of movies, it's kind of tough, and a lot of the times there are compromises involved. Like, in a way, Avatar is woke, but it's also like this massive budget mainstream abomination with no further depth of subject analysis than what can be used in an action movie. K-pop Demon Hunters is cunty, which is one of the wokest things you can be, but it's also made in the image of a heteronormative society. It has like the edgy bad boy romance, etc. Like, there's very little about it that would challenge conservative social structure. Since movies are more reliant on budget than a lot of games are in terms of realistic distribution, you don't usually get a lot of pure, unfiltered woke beliefs of some fucking NB queen making art assets in their basement. I'm gonna say movies that I'm looking at this are Wake Up Dead Man, Superman, The Long Walk, Universal Language, Bring Her Back, K-pop Demon Hunters, Twinless, Sinners, and I think online lefties think that One Battle After Another is more woke than it actually is. It's still a little woke, but, you know. Avatar Fire and Ash, It Was Just an Accident, Left-Handed Girl, and 28 Years Later. I think if I'm gonna separate the political positions a film takes from, like, the energy that it gives off culturally, for instance, 28 years later, like, politically, it's obviously anti-Brexit and anti-Labour Party. It's a commentary on UK stagnation issues, declining birth rates, healthcare, and isolationism. Jimmy and his crew are this blunt reflection of the stagnation of culture created from a snapshot of UK culture, frozen in time, celebrating and mimicking the iconography of a famous pedophile rapist. The principal characters are a socially ostracized woke doctor, a small young boy, and a sickly mother. But if wokeness is more about fresh voices putting themselves out there, normalizing culture and behavior, then a movie like Twinless is a lot more explicitly about being gay as fuck made by people who are gay as fuck. To narrow it down, I would say Twinless, 28 years later, Left-Handed Girl, and Wake Up Dead Man. I think all of these are decent contenders for wokeness. There are good arguments for each of them, but I think it has to go to either 28 Years Later or Left-Handed Girl. It's tough, but in my supreme confidence in the full-fledged leftistness of 28 Years Later, it is stronger than what I can claim confidently about Left-Handed Girl. So, 28 Years Later it is. Woohoo! Yippee! Looking forward to 2026, I guess. That's about it. See ya.